So,
Yeah, so that link is updated. Just sorry about that. And just for the record, I just my victory this week was the Army agreeing to adopt our creativity program with storytelling for use across all Army schools. As I mentioned to Denise, it was 25 schools, 7,000 faculty, and about 200,000 students a year. So we're really well positioned in the middle of Army education. We get organizational leaders at the halfway point of their career when they're successful company grade or direct action leaders. And now we're teaching them how to be organizational leaders where they're planning for large organizations and campaigns and are going to go out and lead those units. Then the ones that are very successful doing that get selected, in about another 8 years for senior service college, like war colleges, and they're going to be the guys that become our strategic leaders or general officers and so forth. But we're positioned right in the middle of Army education in a really, we're the keystone that holds everything up, in my opinion, because we're teaching them doctrine and theory now. They're mature and experienced enough to understand why you got to do that. As a direct action leader, you sort of have to have battle drill and relentless focus on the basics. You can do without some of the nuances of doctrine and theory. But now that they're moving up to large organizations, you need that doctrine as the glue to hold people together. So our school is where they really learn that in great detail for the first time. Then they go out to the field. They're going to develop the junior officers and soldiers using the doctrine they just learned. So they're going to be teachers, essentially.
and
then they also help the older officers learn what the most current doctrine is and keep them updated because they learn by exception. So we're well positioned in the middle. My target audience, if you will. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I'm a little confused about where we are. This was originally
a book writing.
Well, originally
Yeah.
it was just you and me, and then it became a book writing group.
Right.
And
Well, I thought because we were working on writing a book, so it seemed like it was going to be book writing. If you want it to just be me and you, then I will shift till it's just been you. But it looked like book writing was what we were doing, and other people were interested in books. So.
And it's still, I mean, I think it still looks like they might be. I haven't been able to make the Thursday discussion, so I'm not sure. But
yeah, Thursday discussions are just sort of a random walkthrough.
Right.
HCU.
Yeah. Catch
social
up.
Hour. Yeah.
So yes, and I mean it seems like Sue is very interested in a book, and you walked her through your book approach, and I've written 2 books over the last 40 years, and I'm much more focused. I'm the grunts, maybe even below the mid-level managers that you're teaching in your program that you were just mentioning, because I'm really focused on literally footwork on getting things out there on how to do the operations that I need to do to move us 50 yards down the field.
I named this a book writing group because my impression was that the artifacts and such that we were working on was going to lead to a book for you.
It may well, yeah. Yes. I mean, a book has been in my plans for a decade, but I wasn't thinking of it initially, but especially if other people are interested in book writing, I can.
Well, this is your hour. I mean, it's me and you here. It's whatever you want to work on. And if it's not a book, then it can be something else. Whatever it is you want to do that I can help with
Okay,
is what I want to do.
well, good. Then let's go back to the assignment you gave me,
Okay.
which was to
Identify some timestamps for possible artifacts.
exactly.
Okay.
And so let's see. I'm trying to figure out so what you suggested that I do was to go through the flashcard presentation.
Yep.
Oh, flashcard log. Okay, no, it's not the log. These are the flashcards, so I'm looking for them. And I went through homework, April the 12th. There it is. So, do I have permission to? Yes, I do. Okay, so let me. And share sound, although share sound, I only need to do if there's sound in the screen I might be sharing. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would go ahead if it's if you're going to replay a portion of that video, then I would say, yeah, share the sound.
Okay, I went ahead and did it. I just
Okay.
was, yeah, great. Okay, so, what I did was to go through, and identify things that look to me like they could be pulled out in chunks.
Mhm.
I did this by rewatching. I don't know if it was the second or third time, but rewatching the video of our meeting when I went over the flashcards.
Mhm.
And it was about 35 minutes of the recording of me talking through the flashcards with you.
Yep.
And one of the pieces of footwork that I know just enough to know I need work on, and the first thing one thing I need to do is to know the right tools and then learn to use those well. So for example, for me to go through that recording and essentially make timestamps and topics manually took quite a while. I know there is software that does this. There's software that literally gives you transcripts and timestamps. There's software that summarizes it for you. I'm not sure which does what, but speaking of efficiency of time, whether you pull out artifacts from an existing or whether you just do a new one, this is one of those areas where it's like trying to empty the 50-gallon barrel with a teaspoon.
Yeah.
And I know that there are tools that if I can pick the right one and learn to use it, can make it more like I can pick up the 50-gallon barrel and pour it out at a speed that works for me.
Yeah.
That's a really good piece of footwork to learn to do for any kind of work, whether it's books, presentations, whatever, online courses. So I went through, that's how I did it manually. The pain of doing it that way was enough to remind me of that awareness. But one thing I came out with that was it was slightly over a minute. I think you said under a minute, and I think, is that because that's a TikTok limit?
Yeah, well, it's a YouTube short
YouTube short.
limit, and I'm not sure if TikTok has it. I'm pretty sure TikTok will have a time limit on it as well. Although I mean, I don't really use it.
Right.
I don't watch it that much, but I know that YouTube Shorts have a
Well,
strict 1 minute. So
okay. And I'm not even really familiar with YouTube shorts. And I remember you mentioning them. I think TikTok has a 5-minute limit. I don't know if they have any shorter time limits, but so now it's the YouTube is 1 minute, and this was 3 seconds over 1 minute.
yeah,
So I
that's
figured,
that's easy to trim.
well,
And the
that's
other part is 1 minute is a good round number anyway for if you think about TV
right.
commercials to get the point across in 22 seconds.
Yeah,
You
right.
know,
Yes.
yeah, we want to be able to give them the highlight and one
Yeah.
reason to click.
Yeah. So one of the things that I came up with was the Expo guy example that you've heard me do. Another one which is long, no, that's shorter actually. Is you are not your customer unless of course you are or were. I think that's what you call your when I was stories. What
Yeah.
is it?
Um,
There I was.
yeah, there I was. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then the third one is like a 3-minute thing that I mentioned to you that had happened when I spoke on a panel. And one of the things I have done since then, and in fact was messing around with today, is to go back to LinkedIn and find that article, because it is not a lead magnet per se, because when people go to them, they don't have to leave me their email or anything or any indication that they've actually seen it. But it struck me as that's a kind of thing that if I do a 1-minute video, that I could suggest and refer them to the LinkedIn article, LinkedIn post and article it leads to, as a place they could go to get another very small chunk of an indication in written form of who I am and my style and what I'm talking about. So that's the reason that I particularly picked out this third item.
Yeah. On that one, I would probably say, and even, another way to do it, or an even better way, I think, is if you have your own landing page, your own website that they came to listen to the speech, and then right below the video was a download link where they could get the article and never have to leave your site.
Yeah.
So if you think of that as a little rest area, and then that way they're not going to LinkedIn and then they say, hey, I don't have an account at LinkedIn. How do I do that? Well, yeah.
Yeah, I know that theory, and if I had a website, it's exactly what I would do. But I don't even have a website yet. I spent 6 months looking seriously into websites and did not pull the trigger on one. So that's another one of the pieces of footwork or infrastructure that I need to get in place.
Yeah.
But if I keep just going around in circles and not getting any of the pieces in place, nobody will get them anywhere. But I agree with you that it should also then be posted. There's no reason I should take it off LinkedIn, but I should
Right.
also,
It should stay there. It
I
should
should
stay on
also,
LinkedIn for all the people that are already using
right,
LinkedIn. Yep.
yes, but I should also have it on my website. You're absolutely right. I got it. So, oh, the other thing that I discovered as I was working on this homework assignment in anticipation of looking at the editing.
Mhm.
I believe, I can't remember if you said you use Camtasia or Adobe Photoshop for your editing.
Camtasia.
Camtasia.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of the results of Camtasia and heard it from some of the guys that used it in some of the lists I was on, but I have not used Camtasia. What I have used is something that used to be called Screencast-O-Matic, which I used in 2013 to create a voiceover PowerPoint for a memorial for one of my departed colleagues. It is now called ScreenPal. And
Okay.
I gotten an email saying, hey, you haven't been on ScreenPal for a while, and ScreenPal is what used to be Screencast-O-Matic, and if you don't get on there, you're going to lose your stuff.
Yeah.
So knowing that that was the one piece of video recording and editing that I had used in the past and found easy enough to use in 2013. And actually, I sent it to another friend who shared it with a friend of his who really liked it. And it was the first time I'd ever gotten feedback. I mean, the people at the one at the memorial was, oh, that was really great, but that's what I expected to hear from them. But this was a totally independent person who had no reason to say how much they liked it if they didn't mean it. So given my experience with that and the motivation that I needed to go on it anyhow, I got on there and started messing with some of their editing tools. And that's as far as I got before now. So,
All right, I'm looking at ScreenPal right now.
great.
Um,
And I think, did I?
let's see. Let's see, open the video editor.
And there, it is one of those things that has of course, an app, an installable app, which I did. And it also has an in-screen version, which I have open here. So I did not, or did I? I'm not even, I think I may have tried some editing, not on our recording. But I think, oh, I know what I did. I recorded a new 5-minute video in ScreenPal. One of the very useful realizations that I had when I did that.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. My wife is paging me.
Yep.
Stand by. There we go. Sorry. Yep. She was checking on the dogs.
Yep.
See if they had been fed.
I suspected.
Yeah.
So I have used Zoom at times, Zooming with myself.
Yeah.
To practice things. But I was really aware when I recorded that little 5-minute clip to mess with for editing.
Yeah.
How much different it is and how much different it sounds, tone, all kinds of things than when I was walking through the flashcards with you.
Yeah.
even though the flashcards, as I was talking to you I'd looked at them, I'd made them, but I was talking totally off the cuff. There was no scripting done in advance. And so and I've known this to some extent for years, but this just really drove home the power for me of having a live human being on the other side of it for me.
I find it almost impossible to just record to the screen unless I have a live person there with me. The time that it was different was when I was trying to record a bunch of YouTube shorts in a row from one master slide deck, and I adopted a persona, and I had a very clear image of who I was talking to, and I actually had a little statue that I was talking to, to try to persuade them to be a stand-in.
Yep.
Without that, I just lose I lose the thread pretty quickly.
Okay. I am in one sense reassured and another sense bummed out at your agreement with me. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like anything. It's just a matter of practice. And so I always try to invite somebody to listen in, whether it's my brother or whatever, or
Yep.
Part of my nightly podcast. So
yeah, got it. Okay. So, what I think you were planning to do to show me was that you were going to show me in Camtasia how to cut those things out. So that's probably the easiest thing for you to do, and then I can try to learn how to replicate it in screen.
I was looking at ScreenPal, and I'm still monkeying around it. I've never used it, so I don't know how to use their tools yet, but that's what I was kind of doing in the background. What were can you give me those 3 timestamps again? And I'll just pick one and just to give a demo. Okay. Because I have Camtasia loaded up. Any one of those that you want.
How about why don't we start with the Expo guy?
Yeah, 602 to 705.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen then.
Yep. So I got to stop sharing.
Yeah.
Got it. And it's helpful to me, by the way, just to be flipping through the screen sharing and not screen sharing and working that way. So that's, I don't do that as much.
Let's see. Oh, I was supposed to probably, I don't think I'm going to reshare that and share sound.
Got it.
All right. So that should be good. So now so what I got here is now the file that I included, this is what caused the problem of editing those videos before, I think, because the original recording I have is about almost 3 gigabytes.
Yeah.
And it had trouble processing that. But anyway, so what I have on the bottom down here, if you can see my cursor.
Yep.
Is just the timeline on track 1. And then you can add any number of tracks on this. So there are things where I can take this basic video, and if I wanted to have like a little flashcard come in for 10 seconds, I could create that with words and type on it, whatever, show where I wanted it on the screen, put that on track 2, and then when we're producing that thing, everything on any track that's active at that timeline would be incorporated. So you can actually make these things as complex as you want, for later on. So one of the things that I like about it is it does allow for that power. Now, in 10 years, how much of that have I done? Maybe 3 times out of 1,000 videos have I ever
Right,
gone in and added the extra pieces, because it's just like most of my editing and visual designs are coming from me sketching on the whiteboard
right.
as I'm narrating, because I'm already thinking about it,
Right,
and
yeah.
that seems to be my style. So what I'm going to, so this goes all the way out to 2 hours and 16 minutes. So I'm just going to drag this little cursor here in the middle and take it back to 6 minutes, and I'm going to zoom in a little more and let's see what was it, 602.
That's what I said.
Yeah, 602. So I'm going to put that right on 6 minutes.
Okay, yep.
And then when I grab the right or the little red gizmo, I'm going to take this out to
So you,
705.
so you just moved your cursor over to 6 minutes, clicked, that
Yeah.
shows up the little red block and you drag it.
Yeah. So above the, yeah, there's like a little editing bar on the timeline, which is where this green,
Yeah.
that little green is the start point of the chunk.
And you clicked
then
at the start point.
Yeah, well,
Just
that little slider has 3 parts in it. There's this cursor in the middle that's moving back and forth. That shows the active part of the timeline. Now,
Right,
when I drag that back and forth, if you look up at the editing screen, you can see our background moving around a little bit. That's
see us,
just the live movie happening, right?
yeah, see us
Um,
moving around.
Yeah. And then this little green placeholder on the left simply
Where it starts.
marks the start, and then the red marks the end. And then if I wanted to, I could just I could copy that and go to I could start a whole new project, or I could just edit and export just the highlighted section that I wanted, which is what that's the simplest version to do this time. So what I'm gonna do is
Wait.
go back. Go ahead.
So you are going to you're working with the original one and you're just going to make the changes to it.
I could. Now, if I
I thought you just said that's what you were going to do because it's easy.
yes,
Okay,
yes, and here's why I would do that, because the only thing I have to do on this video, I think, is trim out 3 seconds. Right. So it won't hurt it wouldn't
We're-
hurt the.
we're
Go
not
ahead.
we're not sure. There could be a dumb pause
Okay.
or something else within that's not right. I didn't know enough to
Oh, okay.
figure
Yeah,
that
so
out.
so my process here then would be, now that I know the endpoints, I'm going to go in and now I'm going to listen with extreme attention to detail for exactly those things. And the easiest way to do that is, as I go through, if I notice something that is just an obvious, oh, I just need to get rid of that, I just cut it right on the spot.
Okay,
There may be some other ones where I say, I heard that. I don't know if I want to keep that or not.
yeah,
And I could think about it. So you may just mark it off and say, let me come back and revisit. My experience has been, unless it's egregious, just leave it alone.
Yep.
And be authentic and just let it go, which is the advantage
Yeah,
of the natural communication style. When you have an audience, it captures that
yeah.
live and authentic nature. Now, all I did there was I have this little expand and contract button on this toolbar, and that allows me to zoom in a little more.
Okay, so right up there, right above the start point is
Yeah.
where you
Yeah, it has a little plus and a minus
got it.
with a little
So So you did not select a
Magnifying glass.
longer period of time. You made the view of the longer period of time more detailed, so you have
Yeah.
precision control.
Yeah. Because what I'm
Yeah.
looking for, since I know I got to get rid of 3 seconds, when I look at this, I can see that that there are all those little vertical spikes is the sound. I noticed, like, in this one section right here, there's from 6:25 to 6:27, that little space is 2 seconds and nothing's being said.
Got it.
So I've identified 2 of my 3 seconds already.
Wait,
Right.
I think, okay, so I think the very bottom, let me try moving my, I think that the very bottom of the is, yes, that was covered up by the mute, the stop video, all the stuff on the bottom of my Zoom screen, so I can see
Okay. Yeah.
more clearly now. Thank you.
Yeah. So I just expanded
Yep.
that so it's a
Okay.
little easier to see
Yep.
all the vocal spikes.
Yep.
So there's
Got it.
quite a few spaces in there where I know that we're going to be able to trim 3 seconds out of that with ease.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would just go through this.
Let's do it.
Now I'm gonna hit the play, and I want to see, hopefully the sound will come through. So give me a thumbs up when you hear the sound coming through. Okay, here we go.
Most natural joint venture partners is the man I sat down at a small business expo.
Yeah, let me back up a little bit. I want to start at
Yep.
at that last blank at like 5:56.
Yep.
So
I could in future incarnations extend it to market some of my JV partners. So one of my most natural joint venture partners is the man.
yeah, so that one already started. That sounded really good as the opening sentence. One of my most natural joint venture partners was, and then you're right on the gold. So what I would do is already, now I'm just going to go back, and since I know I'm listening for that.
Yep.
Right.
I could in future incarnations extend it to market some of my JV partners. So one of my,
There it is right there. One of my, so
So
that
one
little
of my-
spot,
partners. So one of my,
yep, that's exactly. Now, so where that white vertical line is
yeah,
exactly where you say one of my most so I'm going to bring, since I don't have to cut the other stuff out, I'm just going to move my start line right to that.
yep.
And now I'm a little bit clearer. So I'm right at 601.15.
So one of my most natural joint venture partners is the man I sat down at a small business expo on a bench because my back was about to give out on me one day, maybe a decade ago in Chicago. What do you do? What do you do? And he helps people, small businesses in his community with their marketing.
Yep.
And I,
Yeah. So that 2 seconds can be cut out. So I'm just going to demonstrate how I'm going to do that. What I'm going to just take. I isolate the space,
yep,
hit delete.
yep.
It cuts that out. And then I just drag the rest of this thing over. Now this is a little clumsy because I got to go back to the 6:01 and 15 seconds right there. So now I'm going to listen for the continuity.
So one of my most natural joint venture partners is the man I sat down at a small business expo on a bench because my back was about to give out on me one day, maybe a decade ago in Chicago. What do you do? What do you do? And he helps people, small businesses in his community with their marketing. And I said, oh, interesting. Well, what do you do when you run into somebody who has a nice small business that could use your marketing, but they really don't know who their ideal target customers are? I would pay $100 easy and probably more for a 15-second video clip of his face crumbling, visible.
Yeah, so that little section, that last 10 seconds, you can see on that little screen, there's about 3 natural pauses. And we could take a half a second out of each one of those. And now I'm going to be under the 1 minute easily. Now, before I do that, what I did like was I like the natural cadence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to the end of this thing and see if, what was actually the necessary stop point. And then if we're under a minute, I would just leave it at that.
And
So
I could see the gaps in the bar chart at the bottom, but I could not hear, literally, I couldn't hear the pause as a pause. It was indeed just cadence. So I'm understanding what you're saying and doing reasonably well, which is helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So all we're doing there is now there is some software out there that will automatically cut sections without jamming words together. It leaves the little buffer. It says, hey, there was a 2-second pause. Make that a half-second pause called it's like a timestamp or some time bolt.
Yeah.
And that thing, you could just dump it in there and it cleans up all that stuff just automatically and you never even notice the difference. That's actually a pretty good way. If you're going to do a lot of this stuff, that's probably worth
well
doing.
And I'm following the evolution of the technologies closely enough and well enough, and with the AI and all that. And this stuff is just morphing and crawling around like crazy.
Scary good.
So yes, and so these are features that are kind of going to be built into everything that ends up winning.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to take 2 months or 6 months or 2 years, but it ain't much longer than that unless things get really bad. So yes, I get.
So what I'm going to do, let me go ahead and finish playing to the end of let's see, 7:05, and we'll see and then we'll check to see what the total length of this rascal is.
Yes.
So I'm going to come back to here, and those were the 3. Let's listen to the cadences again.
Yep. Really don't know who their ideal target customers are. I would pay $100 easy and probably more for a 15-second video clip of his face crumbling visibly in front of me. And oh, that's a real problem. In just that tone of voice coming out of his mouth.
Right there is a natural stop, because you've identified we identified the problem, which I detected by the tone, and I knew that this was the thing to work on. So that stops right at like 7:01. So I don't even have to listen to the remaining section of that. I know that that is a good endpoint. So I'm going to just drag my little right slider back to the left and link up with that. And now what I have is from 6 minutes even to 7 minutes even. That's like right at 1 minute. 60 seconds. So all I'm going to do, just to be on the safe side, because I'd hate to have it a minute point in 1 second. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is just go back to this little section right there.
Yep.
And just trim that little chunk. And then tighten it up a little bit. And then I think we're good. I'm going to come back to 6 minutes.
Now, is that just where you did that cut and shift? That's just hold down a left mouse and slide it over kind of thing?
Yeah, literally. I put the little green and red brackets on there to highlight a piece of text or audio, I should say.
Yeah.
And then just hit the delete button. And then
Yep.
I just grabbed, hold, drag,
Grab and
connect.
slide.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to make sure that I have the start point right.
My JV partner. So one of my,
Yeah, I got to tighten it up just a little bit. Yep. Right there. So now we're going from, 6 minutes and 1 second all the way to I think it was, 6:58. So we're like at 58 seconds. So that's going to be a perfect endpoint right there. And I'm going to just make sure that I like that endpoint one last time.
and oh, that's a real problem.
Hmm.
In just that tone of voice coming out of his.
Yeah,
So one of my most natural.
I just gotta tighten, I cut it off like a tenth of a second early. Typical. All right, let me make sure I got that right.
Just that tone of voice coming out of his mouth.
Done. Okay, so now what I have is I'm really satisfied with that. Now, Camtasia gives you some other editing tools, like if I wanted to do audio effects, what I could do is I could use this noise removal tool and just bring it down and drop it on there. Plop.
Okay.
And now you see it has this little adjustable line.
Yeah.
What that does is normalizes the spikiness of it, and it prevents the top end from screeching.
Yep.
And it just modulates it a little bit.
Oh.
And so I'm just going to leave that there. It didn't sound bad at all. In fact, there's probably one spot where it even, right about there. So that looks good. And I don't need to do anything else on that. Now, if I wanted to do, I don't know, visual effects, and I wanted to, this is where you can just jazz it up and all that other crap. But let me see if I wanted to put a caption in there, like to create a caption. I could drop some text onto the screen. I'm not going to do that. I just want to show the basic simple editing. So all I'm going to do, let's see, test. Maybe I should do that test. Okay. So what that just did, that little word test.
Yep. Yeah.
That is this little box is on track 2. It automatically puts it on track 2. So if I wanted that word to appear, I would bring it into the blue area and say from 6 minutes and 20 seconds to, and I wanted it to show for 10 seconds, I would just stretch that box out over that piece of the timeline. Then when this thing produces it here in a minute, it would produce the original audio and video from the screen capture, plus any of these additional artifacts that I've chosen to drop in. Probably not appropriate for this little demo, but so I'm going to do it. So if I don't want that, I can just drag it off screen and just leave it over here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into my shaded area. I'm going to right mouse click. Probably hard to see on your screen. It says export timeline selection as. I'm going to click that. This little thing, I'm going to save it to my F drive. I'm going to call it Denise _01. My dimensions, I'm going to make it 1080p, so it is a large screen, a high definition screen. I can establish the size of that any way that I want from these presets. I'm just going to keep the 1080p because that's a regular landscape style screen. Then I'm going to go down to the encoding, and I'm not going to change anything on that. I'm going to keep it at like, I'm going to make it about 70% quality, which is enough to give you very good definition on the visuals,
Okay.
because there's no moving pieces. It's just kind of text. And if you put 70% quality on that, it is very, very readable, and no worries on that. Then I'm going to click on the audio, and it's set for 192 kilobytes per second. And that's the top end of audio that's detectable by the human ear.
Wow.
Like if I think, yeah, I could make that lower quality, but you never would.
Okay.
On a video this short,
Right.
you want 192 kilobytes, and then I don't have any captions plugged
Right.
in there. So I've done all of that. Now I'm saving it to my location. I'm just going to hit export. And now it's going to render that in the background. And it's probably going to take, a couple minutes to produce that.
What does it render it as?
Yeah, it's going to come. I selected a MP4, which gives you the audio and visual, and that's a really efficient output that
Yeah.
can be read by any browser. It's the industry standard for producing. Um, so it's going to take a couple minutes to get that thing done. Then once I go back and play that, it's a video file that itself could be further edited. Like
Right.
I could say, oh, you know what? Now that I've got that artifact, I would, if I'm doing this as a project on a big project, I'm gonna say Denise 01, that's where I talk about the guy and basic. And maybe I also I might put, if I was going to do a lot of these, I'd probably say it's from the source file of that large video. So I knew where I could, if I wanted to go back to that original video, I still could. Now, what's nice about this is we pulled in that large unedited file from the hard drive, and then I did some edits. I cut this, I trimmed that. That did not change the original file that was used as a source. So what we did was we brought a copy. When you bring it in, it
That was
brings
my
a
question.
copy in to work on.
Okay, so that was my question at the beginning.
Yeah.
And when you, and so the choice was to either work on a copy of the source file, which is
Yeah.
what you did work directly, or you could have cut a chunk out
Right.
first, but there was no reason to, because you were already working with a copy of the source file.
That's right. And because
Got it. That makes
what we
sense.
had, what you had done was you identified 3 very specific chunks. They were already co-located, and we could do production just right
Right.
on them.
Yeah.
Now, what I like to, when I am making a lot of shorts out of a longer video, I just
Mhm.
start at the beginning and I produce as I go to the right.
Yeah.
And I start listening, say, oh, that's one that I want. And if I've already if I was going to use this as a deliberate technique to produce a lot of shorts,
Hmm.
when I'm doing the original recording, I would leave a 10-second space in between each little take. Or
Yeah.
I would get one of those go to the dollar store, get that little mechanical cricket that goes, chuck it, that kind of thing. Because you would see that as a really large
Oh,
spike. And
the,
that would almost give you the the start point and end point, but that's almost more trouble than it's worth. So I just put 10-second space in between, and then those become very apparent later, and I can just skip right over, and then I know where the new piece is going to start from. So I can take one long recording from a standard speech, maybe 10 slides, 10 artifacts, and I want to record them in a narrative, and I just put 10 seconds in between. Now I have one long source file with all of it, and I can work on a process, get it done, process, get it done, process, and then I don't have to go through, re-listening for the timestamps that I want, because I've been recording with a very particular purpose in mind. And then if you already know your audience and you get, once you get used, after 2 or 3 times of doing that, you'll become more comfortable with recording without a live audience, because you're already imagining the people you're talking to,
Right.
and just have that image in your mind, and you can speak directly to your ideal customer, and then you will save yourself a lot of grief.
So like you walking through a trading analysis.
Yeah.
You got those people in your head. They don't need to be there for you to be talking to them, because you talk to them the same way in your head as you would talk to them live.
Because I've literally done that for
1,000 times.
10 years. Actually,
Yeah.
it's about 2,500 times.
Yeah.
I mean, not even metaphorically. I mean, actually,
Literally.
it's 10 years of nightly podcasts, 220 nights a week
Wow.
for 10 years, plus some work on the weekends.
Mhm.
And when I'm doing that podcast with them, they're on mute anyway,
Yeah. Okay.
because they know that once I kind of get on a roll, they want to
Right.
just, and they're going to be able to come back and study it later.
Right.
So when I'm doing that, I actually structure that nightly podcast in sections anyway.
Sure.
There's 4 sections. So when I want to extract artifacts from it, I can just quickly go to the section that I need, and I can just pick it up. And I can tell by rapid scrolling, like when I'm up here, if I had now, yeah, see how this is changing? I could just, by watching the screen, I wanted to start one where as soon as the ladies come on, let's see if I can find it right here. Right. Like this one right here, where we went from the screen to the text.
Yep.
I could use that to quickly find where I am in my standard structured presentation. So,
Yep.
you can be as deliberate and scripted as you need to be on these, or almost on the fly once you're using if you have a standard presentation. So now what I've got is I've exported that. I'm gonna see if I can't start a new project.
That's too small for me.
There, save changes. No, I'm not gonna, I don't want to save those changes, because I mean, I could, if I
There's
was
no
gonna
reason.
come back and keep working on that copy of the original file that had all of those edits in there,
If,
then it would remember that, and then, but
Yeah.
for our purposes here, I didn't really need to. So now I'm gonna go back to File, Import, Media. Let's see, F drive. Yeah. Hopefully if I did, yeah, there's Denise 01.
Mhm.
So I'm going to pull that in. So now I've imported this video, and I
Mhm.
can just drop that onto that timeline. And this is the one, I've moved it to the 1 minute mark, so we have a little bit of cushion. All right. The actual video as produced turned out to be, let's see if about 56 seconds.
Mhm.
Now, once you've got these little chunks, imagine I had 5 or 6 little standard chunks. Or I could drop in another video, and I could organize the chunks in the order that I wanted. I could leave gaps in between them and still record a full, and that would simply be silence between the audio, or I could smush them together and do whatever I wanted. So you can now start building your storyboard with little chunks. And that's why I think, when you have standard flashcards and standard stories to tell, you get those little chunks as artifacts, then you can drop them in, then you can build out your whole presentation as needed. So you probably have 100, I could imagine you having 100 standard slides or 100 points to make. One slide per point with a story that goes along with it. You put that thing up, you tell your story, and cut. Produce it, number it, drop it in a artifact folder. And then when you're going to build a project, you could pull in the ones that you need and then build a master presentation just by stitching together all of those little stories.
Okay, some questions about that.
Sure.
Sometimes you're recording things in different places, different backgrounds, different clothing, different this, different that. In my case, it'll be different hair. I'll get a haircut one of these days and it'll change radically.
Yeah.
And it has occurred to me that can make things disjointed or confusing, and
it can be. It could be. I minimize my face on the screen anyway.
yeah.
The science of this says people probably like to see you rather than not see you. If they had a choice, they'd rather see you because they want to, especially if you're telling stories, they'd like to be connected to you as a person. And if you're dressing sort of like business standard anyway, I don't think the shift of, hey, she was wearing a blue jacket, now it's green, probably doesn't matter. The only trick on that will be is if you're recording in public, then the acoustics of the room
Be different.
begin to be an issue.
Yeah.
And then that's where you have to have that thing where I dropped in that filter for noise. And you might have to do a little processing on that.
That might be an example where you would just redo it.
Yeah, probably. If you like the sound of it, you say, hey, it's just easier to tell the story the way I like it under controlled conditions, like in my home office. And to that, I would say, and for your home office or wherever you're going to record, having a quiet room with a good microphone.
Yeah.
And a little sound box to kind of screen out external filters. Like if I turned off my background here, I just created a little field expedient soundproof walls. Like I just put some metal bars on the ceiling, hung shipping blankets with acoustic tiles on it so it reduces the echo of my basement. I have a nice microphone. Then I have this little foam windscreen noise screen that fits over the microphone to cut out some of the plosives and the sound of my laptop fan and all that jazz. So you can do things on the cheap. You can do things on the cheap there that will make it near studio quality for practically nothing.
Yeah.
Like a little 12 by 12 inch piece of sound foam is $1. Okay, so for $10 you can do a little microphone protector and that kind of stuff. So those little, and then the microphone that I'm using here sounds pretty good to me, and that's about $100. And and you're good to hook. So now what you can see is I have this little video file in here, and if I wanted to, I could further edit it if I wanted to, and try things out and put things in there without affecting the original snippet that we had just produced, because this is a copy of that file that's sitting on my hard drive.
Yes. what I'm really curious about is, so this is a 1-minute new artifact.
Yeah.
That you just created.
Mhm.
What would, how would this be used? And it would be really useful for me at some point in time to see
Yeah.
if an example from your work
Mhm.
of where you had something where you'd had a longer, you know, a longer presentation, or, and you
Yeah.
pulled some things out and you put this short here
Yeah.
for this purpose, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then
Let me, I'll show you, I can show you, I think, um, a quick example of that.
I'm sure you have thousands.
Let's see, we have, can I remember, let's see, I'm gonna go right to, hey, while we're here, these guys, it's called the freewebsiteguys.com. They will design you a professional website for nothing. It takes 2 minutes to apply. They've built 10,000, and the cost to you is zero.
What are they called? The free website guys?
One big word, no spaces. The free website guys.com. And yeah, let me show you that again.
Is that a WordPress website?
Yeah, yeah. And so this is their start. Now, how do they get paid? Well, some percentage of their guys go beyond the free version and do some custom editing and stuff like that. But thousands of people just use the free site,
Mm-hmm.
and it's rated higher than Wix and Squarespace, which are two other places
Yeah.
that I've actually used to design. Now, I haven't used these guys, but some people in HCU were really fond of them, and nothing wrong with that.
I tried to get somebody to do a website for me before I started experimenting with them myself. And I came to the conclusion that my website is so much a fundamental part of what it is I'm doing that I couldn't really give it over to somebody else to do. I just literally didn't know how.
Yeah.
But I'll take a look at this. And between Wix and Squarespace, did you have a preference?
Let's see. My
And
brother used Squarespace, and we were very happy with that site for the Owl Group to sell our book, because all we needed was a landing page that would welcome them to the site, show 10 books that we have for sale, including one of them is the big book that we just wrote, and it would capture their email when they registered, and it
Mhm,
actually had a little shopping cart to sell PDFs. And that thing is making money, and it costs like $6 a month to
mhm.
host it. And it cost $50 to set it up or something like, I mean, the first 3 sales of the book covered a year's worth of the website. So Squarespace worked just fine for him. He's not a web guy at all. He's a hospice nurse,
Yeah.
and they walked him through it, and it was set up in a day. My other business partners who are teaching my courses for me and whatnot, they used Wix, Wix,
Yep.
and they reported equally satisfying results. Very inexpensive, low hosting cost per month per year,
Yep.
has
Got
a
it.
landing page and easy to edit
Yeah.
in WordPress. So either one of them, I mean, you can't go wrong. It looks to me like the free website guys is even less expensive than them, but I would just
I messed with I messed with both Squarespace and Wix when I was doing it, but I'll take a look at the alternatives, but I'll just,
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through, this is that. Yeah, here's something. I'm going to take you through so this is book club number 1. So this is a course. Oh, I didn't even know it. Like I made $291 on that last week. I didn't even know it.
Oh,
So people were referred to this to get the recorded home study course. So what I did was, this is in Rizuku, and module number 1, I just welcomed them to the book club, and there's 7 lessons. This was 001 was what was the time schedule and the links for the weekly live Q&A sessions, because I broke the book up into 10 chunks, and then each week for 10 weeks, they were supposed to read that section, send me questions, and I was going to answer them all in one spot and then summarize that section of the book with 1 page of consolidated notes. So that lesson describes that. Then in the next 2, I talk about storytelling and story listening, and I explain to them the theory and practice why listening to me talk about the book added extra value to them just reading the book, and why the dialogue between author and reader, the Q&A, generates new knowledge that you don't get just by reading the book and that you don't get by just writing the book, that the live dialogue actually generates. Then I went to lesson 4 was all the live chat recordings. So you'll probably recognize that style right there. That's just 1 lesson in Rizuku. And then all I did was each day take the recording of me lecturing for an hour and chunking it, uploading it to YouTube, getting the video, dropping it in here, and then establishing the link, and then just putting a short title. Now, what I've done is, on these additional lessons that are prompted by the Q&A, this is another module. Each one of these, like the first one reads, Max Pain Range Compression, MPRC. That little lesson is it's about a 15-minute extract from one of those longer 60 to 90-minute lessons. But it was self-contained, and I thought it was so good that I then did what we just did. I took that 15-minute chunk, made it its own video, uploaded that to YouTube, and then what I did was I put I linked here, so if I hit the link, actually, I'm sorry, I uploaded that to Rizuku to host it directly, and then I made a downloadable file, so if they wanted to actually download and listen to it offline, they could do that as well. So all of these lessons right here, the additional lessons prompted by the Q&A, is where one particular section of that longer nightly discussion really resonated. It became a self-contained chunk. And so I just made each one of those its own little downloadable lesson. I also added in all the audiobook sound file, I actually painfully read the book word for word in sections and made each of those an MP4A. So it's just the audio portion.
Yep.
So that was like 23 sections of living hell to read that 320 pages, which I then went through. And as I was reading it, I didn't want to like re-record a 20 minutes. I made a mistake there. I would leave a 10-second gap, gather my thoughts, and then just start over again. And then when it came time to edit the whole file, I could edit a 20-minute section, like the 2 or 3 places where I would make a mistake. I could go in, cut it out and clean it up and then reprocess. Now, my brother, since I made all these downloadable from Rizuku, he downloaded them, put them into a little package to give to our editor salesperson to craft the audio book for Amazon sales. And we've also made it a one master downloadable book with these as chapters to sell from that other website. And then what I did with the Meet the Authors, under Meet the Authors, each one of us had we recorded a short personalized video introduction of ourselves and added a few things pertaining to our particular work. So this was me, this was my brother, Phil Wu was one of our authors, and Griff Cooper was the other one. So each one of us recorded our own little artifacts and then made that part of this course. So when they're done with all this, if I'm gonna switch over to the student view. Now this is what it looks like if you're a student.
Yeah.
And then these extra videos that I dropped in from Research Weekend Workshop 2000, it should read 2023. I got to change that. Those are recordings that I did with one-on-one coaching sessions with all of my advanced students.
Interns.
Some of these guys, like Ken H and Joe G, are working on courses of their own, and they're building out. But I took that little coaching session, cleaned it up with minor edits, and then gave them their own hour-long presentation as a lesson in my course, which then is going to point to their course when they build it out.
Okay.
So what we've done is taken a very artifact focused approach to building out this course, and it sits on individual flashcards. And let me see if I can just give you one example of oh yeah, so this one, all the Cornell note sheets in support of the Zoom sessions. So each one of these blue boxes, I wonder if I can, maybe I can expand that a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. That's probably hard to see, but
yeah, it's unreadable.
But the entire hour-long narration came from those detailed notes on one sheet. So we made those available as a downloadable PDF. And then they have an audio, therefore, that goes along with each one of those. And they can download it. See, this is one where I had the primary note sheet, but also some additional artifacts for questions that they had answered. And so that some of these went more than one page because they had asked particular questions. Like there's one on the consensual assessment technique for evaluating creativity, and some ideas on blending systems. So each one of these has its own little speech.
Yeah.
And the artifact stands alone. And like I can go to that lesson, pull that artifact out, and make it part of a completely different course. So that artifact approach supports the idea of outlining and compartmentalizing and storytelling with clear steps. You know, there's sort of a standard approach to writing called the Fieldstone method, where the guy says, look, just write in chunks on 3x5 cards or 5x8s or a little text block for the thing that you're passionate about, that you want to get out of your head.
Yeah.
Get it down and then just set it in a pile. Later on, arrange those things in a larger storyboard, add the transitions you need, and now suddenly, boom, you have the book that you need, or the presentation you need, or the course you need. And you also have these little chunks that themselves can be your lead magnets. I can take 10 of those artifacts out of there and start flooding the zone with them. Put them in a blog post with a link to listen to the video, that kind of stuff. So pretty easy to do.
That's,
Once
yeah,
you get going, once you get going.
well, and you've got, I mean, what would I do with the one little 1 minute that you edited? What would be a use for that? I mean,
I think
got a
right
whole
now,
empire
yeah,
built.
yeah. Well, because the artifact was probably a little hard to read, and my face on your artifact isn't helping.
Yeah,
Um,
but
that's one where if you like the sound of that, that's one where I would take just the artifact and
the
work on the
audio,
visuals so that you had it, so it was really easy to read, and I would put like I would put it in a standard PowerPoint slide that
yeah.
had your brand and your contact information so that whenever you use that, whether it was as a 1 minute standalone or as part of a larger presentation.
So what you're saying is you would just use the audio file
Oh,
and
yeah, you
put
could
it
do that.
over something else.
Yeah, you could do that very easily because I like the sound of the audio.
Well,
The audio
I
was
thought
just,
that's what you were just saying
oh yeah, well, you
to
can.
do.
I was going to say also that I hadn't gone that far in my thinking, but what you say is exactly correct. I was thinking about, oh well, I'll just since it's only a minute, just re-record it. But now that you say that, it's like, well, obviously, just use the audio and then clean up the artifact because it was just one
Create an
slide.
appropriate visual artifact for it
There you are.
is
And then
what you're talking. Yeah, okay, got it.
yeah, and then you drop that flash card in as track number one, and you stretch it the length of the audio, and then you drop track number two, which is the audio. And now when you produce that, it combines the new graphic with the old audio, and you're good to go.
And that's yeah, and that's what using the terms you're talking about in Camtasia, and I
Yeah.
don't, yeah.
So if
So
I go back to the Camtasia example, uh, where I selected to export it and produce it as a MP4,
mhm,
I also could take exactly that same, I could take the one that we just did
and
and
produce it to
say, just
MP3,
produce it as the audio only.
which would
And
be
it,
MP3, right?
uh, well, the newer version is called an M4A,
Oh,
which,
okay.
which is a MP3 players would play it, but the M4A gives you better fidelity
Okay.
and
Did not,
quality and smaller storage. So
okay.
same difference. But
Same thing.
you could actually export it as an MP3, but I just usually default to M4A because it's an updated
If I'd
audio
known there
format.
was one, I would have suggested it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like I said, okay. All right. Well,
Well,
that's, I think my
pretty
brain.
cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And that's very helpful for me to sort of see how that all works.
This feels like a natural
Cut
break
point.
point.
Yes, it
And
does.
this time I promise I will get this, I'll get the right audio or the right video, excuse me, uploaded into the,
Yeah.
into Basecamp.
Yeah. Do you
And
know,
if I remember, I'll upload the 1 minute video artifact because that was only like 8 MB.
yeah,
The larger file was almost 3 GB.
right.
That one was 8 MB for full HD 1 minute. That's about
Yeah.
right. So, and the audio would be much smaller. And I'll probably,
And you're gonna put that up as a recording like you did the original
yes,
part
I'll
one.
put that right into that running list of weekly
That's a,
videos.
okay,
That's just gonna be a growing bulletin board organized by date
okay. Now
with the recordings. Yeah.
so that's the message list, which has links to them on YouTube.
Yeah.
You
And I
also,
can,
you
yeah.
also did the actual
Yeah, I'll put that in there as well because it's only 8 MB.
that was, yeah, okay. That's what I was thinking, because that's,
Yeah, because I have like I don't know, a couple terabytes of storage in my account.
Yeah,
But I also support all my other coaching with
Yeah.
all this too. And, 3 or 4 gigabytes here and there starts adding. It's like a billion here and a billion there.
billion here, a billion there, it begins
Pretty
to add
soon,
up.
pretty soon it's real money.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, and I'm gonna have to absorb all this. It's really, it's very helpful,
Yeah,
thanks.
I have every reason to believe that ScreenPal could do the same things that Camtasia does. I have to believe that in the year 2024, all of the tools
At
end up
least the
having a
stuff we
common
covered,
features. Yeah,
at least the stuff we covered,
I probably use 5 to 10% of the capacity or capabilities of Camtasia because I have a very
right, yeah.
simple approach to what I'm trying to do.
KISS, keep it simple, sweetie, is my mantra, and it's gonna stay that way.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Have a
Okay,
lovely
boss.
weekend.
All
Thank you
right,
so
boss.
much.
Well, you have a good, safe weekend.
Thank you.
And we got some weather rolling in here. We may see some thunderstorms tonight, so I'm gonna get this going before I before I lose the internet. So,
Sounds good.
all right,
Take
boss.
care. Thanks so much.
Yep. Take good care. Bye.